The billionaire's wife was a storm no one dared to stand against. People said even her footsteps echoed with warning, and the mere sound of her heels clicking down the marble corridors of Whitford Enterprises could freeze the air. She carried her power like a weapon, sharp, polished, and ready to cut down anyone who crossed her. Employees avoided eye contact. Managers rehearsed excuses in case she targeted them, and even the board chairman stepped aside when she strode through. But everything changed the day a new janitor named Daniel Foster walked in with a rusted mop, patched shoes, and a kind smile that seemed almost out of place in the cold, glittering kingdom she ruled. No one imagined that the woman everyone feared would soon be brought face to face with her own reflection and look utterly ridiculous in front of a man she didn't even consider worth noticing. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the smallest person can spark the biggest change, then don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let us know in the comments where you're watching. Your engagement helps stories like this reach more hearts around the world. Despite being the wife of the legendary billionaire Thomas Whitford, Cassandra Whitford lived in a world crafted from insecurity more than luxury. Raised in a home where perfection was demanded but affection withheld, she learned early that control equaled safety. And so she controlled everything: how employees greeted her, how staff arranged her flowers, how assistants breathed when entering her office. Her reputation spread like wildfire, icy, ruthless, unforgiving. People whispered that even Thomas feared her temper, and truthfully, he did. She carried trauma in her chest like a secret shard of glass, and rather than risk anyone touching that wounded place, she clenched her fists tighter and tightened rules around her until no one could get close enough to hurt her. Then came Daniel Foster, a man with the quiet sadness of someone who'd lost everything yet somehow refused to lose himself. People didn't know much about him. Only that he'd taken the janitor job after losing his small mechanic shop to debts and medical bills following his daughter Lily's illness. He came to work early, left late, and treated everyone with a gentleness the building had never known. When executives rushed by with their eyes lowered, Daniel still nodded warmly. When interns trembled through their first days, he whispered encouragement. When he cleaned the lobby floors, he did it with a hum under his breath, as if music softened the weight he carried. Over time, he became a silent beam of unnoticed kindness, unnoticed by everyone except those who desperately needed it. Cassandra first encountered him during one of her infamous inspections, where she strutted down the hallway searching for flaws to punish. A staff member had accidentally spilled coffee near the elevators, and she stood there fuming as if the stain were a personal war aimed at her dignity. Daniel hurried over, knelt with his old mop, and began cleaning, offering her a gentle nod as if she weren't the terrifying monarch of the building, but simply a person standing there. And that small gesture, so natural for him, so foreign to her, unsettled her in a way she couldn't name. She snapped, demanding perfection, belittling him, even laughing coldly at his worn-out shoes. People watched in dread, expecting him to shatter like all the others she had humiliated, but Daniel didn't flinch. He simply continued cleaning, his expression calm, almost compassionate, as if he saw something behind her anger that no one else dared to look at. That moment struck her harder than any rebellion could have. She stormed away, unable to shake the discomfort of being seen, not as a tyrant, not as a billionaire's wife, but as a human being with cracks showing. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed more often. Cassandra, always hunting for control, tried to regain her usual dominance each time, but Daniel's demeanor made that impossible. When she threw tantrums, he responded with patience. When she barked orders, he quietly completed them without fear. When she lashed out, he didn't retreat. He simply stood there with quiet understanding. That unnerved her deeply. It was as if her rage evaporated before it reached him, leaving her frustrated and confused. Employees began noticing the shifts, the way her voice trembled slightly when addressing him, the way she hesitated, the way she seemed constantly thrown off balance. The turning point came on a stormy evening when Cassandra followed Thomas into the parking garage to argue about a decision he'd made regarding the company charity fund. Thomas, exhausted, snapped back, revealing how her fear of losing everything made her push everyone away, including him. His words broke her facade. She fled in tears, something no one had ever witnessed. She hid in a dark corridor, trembling like a child rather than a queen, her breath ragged. It was Daniel who found her, gently placing his coat around her shoulders without asking anything, without judgment, without exploiting the rare vulnerability she showed. Cassandra felt overwhelmed by shame and confusion, but Daniel simply sat nearby, silently offering presence over answers. She didn't understand why he would help her, why someone with so little gave so much. Slowly, painfully, she opened the locked doors of her past, confessing how she had learned to weaponize power because she believed it was the only way to survive. Daniel listened, not excusing her cruelty, but seeing the broken heart hiding beneath it. When she finally broke down, sobbing like someone releasing years of held breath, he didn't comfort her with empty words. Instead, he shared the story of his daughter Lily, of the battles he'd fought, of the moments where he chose kindness because it was the only thing that kept him from drowning. His honesty became the mirror she never dared to face. The next days marked a transformation so subtle yet profound that employees whispered in disbelief. Cassandra began greeting people softly. She apologized for past harshness. She asked for opinions rather than ordering outcomes. When she passed Daniel, she offered grateful smiles, each one blooming from the seeds of humility he planted in her. One morning, she publicly thanked him during a staff meeting, admitting that he had taught her more about strength than any wealth or title ever had. The room froze, everyone expecting this to be some kind of trick. But she meant every word, and for the first time, she looked less like an untouchable empress and more like the woman she had always wished she could be. Still, her pride hadn't fully dissolved, and one afternoon it sparked again when she overheard two senior managers mocking her transformation. The old Cassandra would have fired them on the spot. But before she could react, Daniel approached with his mop, accidentally knocking over a small bucket of water that splashed across the floor and right onto her designer shoes. Gasps filled the room. Everyone expected an explosion of rage. Instead, Cassandra saw the absurdity of the moment, the ridiculousness of caring so much about shoes when she had spent years stepping on people's hearts. She burst into laughter, rich, freeing laughter that stunned the entire staff. Daniel joined in with a sheepish grin, and that moment became legendary. The woman once feared by thousands stood drenched in mop water, laughing as if she'd finally remembered how to be human. As weeks passed, Cassandra and Daniel built an unlikely friendship shaped by mutual respect and quiet understanding. She supported fundraising for Lily's treatment, and Thomas, touched by his wife's transformation, matched the donations. Daniel's daughter recovered slowly, and Cassandra visited often, bringing books and flowers, forming a beautiful bond with the little girl who adored her. Employees who once trembled in Cassandra's presence now smiled, comfortable, around the woman she'd finally allowed herself to become. And though life didn't erase her pain or mistakes, it offered her something better: connection, compassion, and the courage to change. If this story has touched your heart so far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps more emotional stories reach those who might need them most. And before we end, we have one special request. Please comment below and tell us which moment of the story moved you the most. Cassandra never became perfect, and Daniel never stopped being humble, but they became something extraordinary together, proof that the most powerful transformations often begin in the most unexpected places. The billionaire's wife once ruled with fear, yet it was a janitor with nothing but kindness who brought her to her knees in the most beautiful way, teaching her that true strength is not in being feared, but in being brave enough to feel again. Their story grew into a symbol across the company, whispered with awe by employees who had watched a cold, unreachable woman melt into someone who could laugh, cry, and care without shame. And in that final measure of change, Cassandra finally found peace, not in perfection, not in control, but in the fragile, breathtaking honesty of being human.